Torremolinos, we moved west down the Costa del Sol to Estepona, staying on a small plaza that had a weekly farmer's market, which was super convenient. Another convenience was that it was a block away from the ocean promenade. Whereas Torremolinos was all high-rise buildings for tourists and snowbirds, Estepona is mid-rise buildings with a lot of families, both local and expat. The promenade had so many flower beds, providing a colorful border to the well-groomed beach. And more public seating than we have seen nearly anywhere. A larger weekly market was about 20 minutes walk away, so also pretty convenient. "15 minutes down the beach, by the Estepona port and marina, a weekly Sunday market was for mostly all expats, with lots of clothes and other shopping. And a few blocks up the beach towards central Estepona, a beachside restaurant was always crowded and had the most delicious looking grilled fish, though we never did try it. Central Estepona is simply gorgeous, full of impeccably whitewashed and decorated buildings, with several parks. Including this large municipal park on the north edge of the center. And the church at the top of the highest hill in town fits in perfectly. But it's the flowers that are what Estepona is known for. Like the flower beds on the ocean promenade, the town provides flower pots to many central streets with different color schemes. It's a real joy to just wander around central Estepona. The flowers on the outside of the Castillo de San Luis are stunning. Built in the 15th century after the Christian reconquest of Estepona, the castle is now a small but well-maintained museum. While most of the museum focuses on the castle's later 18th century period, the site's history actually goes back over 2,000 years, with foundations back to the 8th century Arabic Moors and rubble excavated from the site dated back to the Romans. A block over from the castle, the Estepona Archaeological Museum was opened in 2013 in an 18th century house built atop a Moorish cistern. The museum has a more extensive collection of both Islamic and Roman artifacts, with the oldest artifacts from the Punic Wars, when Carthage controlled all of what's now southern Spain. Marbella is the nearest major town to Estepona, about 90 minutes by public bus, but I first rented an e-bike to ride there along the coast. It was looking like a nice day, and a sculpture garden, an 18th century aqueduct, an 11th century tower were right along the trail. The Senda Litoral, as the coastal path is called, is an ambitious project that will eventually run nearly 100 miles, but now there are significant gaps, and the strong headwind was not letting up. Having to take a pedestrian bridge across the highway, I saw rain clouds heading my way, so I cut my trip short about 2/3 of the way in San Pedro de Alcántara and found a great spot for lunch. On the return trip, kite surfers were taking advantage of the winds. We did make it to Marbella by bus and came upon a beautiful 18th century park. And a promenade leading to the sea that was lined by 10 bronze statues from Spanish surrealist Salvador Dalí. Among our favorites were the Greek hero Perseus defeating the Medusa, later with her head mounted on a shield, and a seated Don Quixote. Back on the main street, not a Dalí, but still wonderful, we walked into the old town center, and Marbella was doing its best to match Estepona for immaculate beauty. Marbella's Moorish Alcazaba was built around the same time as the spectacular one we saw in Malaga, so we were excited to see what this one was like. We did find a school that had just let out for the day, but as it turns out, most of the Alcazaba was destroyed in the 15th century after the Catholic Reconquista and never rebuilt. Our final day trip from Estepona was south, to the British Overseas Territory of Gibraltar. The nearest public bus station is the Spanish border town of La Línea de la Concepción, under a 10-minute walk to the border. A British territory since 1713, Spain has never given up its claim to the strategic peninsula. It's the only place in the world where you have to walk across an airport runway to enter. And it's the only British territory where they drive on the right side of the road. Gibraltar is derived from Arabic for Mount of Tariq, after Tariq ibn Ziyad, who used the peninsula to launch the 8th century Islamic conquest of the Iberian Peninsula. The center of the original Moorish town is now Casemate Square, where we stopped for a lunch of fish and chips. There are other bits of Britishness around, and this postbox doesn't yet reflect the new monarch. But the main attraction of Gibraltar is the Rock, as drilled into my young American brain by Prudential Insurance.
Get a piece of the rock. Prudential Insurance.
1,400 feet high, the Rock has captivated the imagination of humans since the ancient Greeks, who held this as one of the 2 pillars of Hercules. The other is across the Strait of Gibraltar on the northern tip of Morocco. Besides the amazing views and remains of 13 centuries worth of fortifications, there are Gibraltar's roughly 300 Barbary macaques, the only wild monkeys remaining in Europe. Back in Estepona, we enjoyed a last Spanish sunrise before catching a bus south to Tarifa, and a ferry across the Strait of Gibraltar to Tangier, Morocco, our 58th country and our first time in Africa together.